Well, hello, Charleston Conference. Welcome to our presentation on planning, implementing, and marketing impact and visibility services at research libraries. My name is Matt Torrance, and I am an associate librarian in the Geosciences and Marine Sciences and Sustainability at the University of South Florida Libraries. And this is my colleague.
Hello, everyone. My name is Allison Simulevich. I am one of the social sciences librarians here at the University of South Florida on the Tampa campus. I cover typically political science, international studies, criminology, lots of other things. But yeah, as Matt said, today we're going to talk a little bit about impact and visibility services. So we've had impact and visibility services in the past at USF, including a research guide. However, each librarian kind of did their own thing, offering a variety of services to different faculty members in their area because we work with different liaisons. Matt and I were tasked with coming up with a cohesive plan for our department to standardize services, to implement new services, and to market these services to faculty members. We were lucky in that we had institutional support for the project. Our supervisor, our supervisor, and the provost were all very excited about these services we were going to be working with.
So the first step was taking something we already had, and this is the new version. I really wish I'd added the old version on here. You could see the level of improvement. And if you're really interested, we've got our emails at the end. I can show you what it used to look like via the Wayback Machine. But what we kind of did was take what we had and basically expand it and make it into a more cohesive and organized service profile and plan. As Allison was saying, when we first started this, we just kind of threw out the resources and everyone was sort of helping as best they can. But we really needed to do more based on the questions we were getting and the needs of the faculty, especially given the demands of academia and from the provost. So when you see this guide, if you go look at it later, hopefully you'll see what kind of went into it, where we divided up sort of the basics and defining things, but also a little bit more instruction and self-guided information on what you can do. So we tried to be parallel with our construction on what we were covering and how it would cover it. So you can see there, we want to introduce, help you analyze, and give you strategies. These are all things that we thought about that we hadn't really thought about other than just sort of directing people to the resources in previous incidences. So the guide was expanded. Those of you that have worked with LibGuides, I'm guessing most of you, will find them to be very, very easy to use. And in this case, I think it was a really good platform to start this, but we expanded beyond that, as you'll see, with sort of attachments and other things. The other important thing, as Allison said, in addition to having our supervisors and supervisors, which was amazing, it went up well beyond what we expected and became sort of more popular. But we really wanted to make sure our colleagues understood sort of a universal nature of what we were doing. So these sort of things, I'm not going to go through and read them all, but we were both interested in and directed to help, not only do the things we'd done before, which was provide those services and update them, but to give a little bit more about what the patrons might need and get some consistency about what we were covering. We also wanted to have sort of more consistent places for contact information. And, as it says on the bottom, this became sort of a good talking point because it easily supported a number of the library's strategic goals and the university's strategic goals, given its sort of obvious impact on impact and all those sorts of measurements. So this was a really good thing for us, and we were happy that it worked out that well, at least so far.
And just piggybacking off what Matt said, we actually took the time out at a faculty retreat for our department to show off the different tools, to give the librarians time to learn how to use the different tools, so that there wasn't like a learning curve. Because there is a learning curve with some of these, such as the ones that Matt is going to talk about in a little bit. But why don't we first start with academic author profiles? We're really trying to encourage faculty and even some graduate students to sign up for these author profiles. we've been focusing on ORCID ID, Google Scholar, Scopus, and Web of Science. And we know there are many different academic author profiles out there, but we're really trying to help faculty with basically building their online presence. If you don't mind the next slide, please, Matt. Thank you. So at USF, we recently signed up for an institutional account with ORCID. We want all of our faculty to affiliate their profiles with USF, which will allow USF to push out information to ORCID IDs for faculty members. So such as grants or different projects that, that people have worked on at the university, certifications, that kind of thing. It will also allow us to tie the profile to academic analytics. And we are investigating how to tie it into our institutional repository, Digital Commons at USF. We've been holding workshops to show faculty members how to sign up for these profiles and how to update them. So really trying to make them user-friendly. We know that Google Scholar is probably the easiest one to sign up for since it pretty much auto-populates for itself. But we're really pushing for ORCID. And as you notice, here's a screenshot of mine. You see that I can connect ORCID to my Scopus ID. I can connect it to Web of Science. They're really making it very easy nowadays to basically populate your information in one place and push everything out to other platforms.
And then the next step, obviously, is we sort of build through the elements that we worked on, because it was sort of author, journal, department, and then beyond. The next step being journal, which was actually sort of the motivation, because when we got into this years and years ago, one of our colleagues created a template that I'll show you that we integrated into that guide. That's just really a simple Word document table, but it's something that we prepared that, you know, while it isn't exactly fancy, it does provide them to an example of what they can do and how they can begin their work, and also the resources with which they can use to find the information. And there's no one answer. You see up there, there's a lot of tabs, or excuse me, table headings, but we can put in whatever we want up there, whatever works best for your faculty. Allison works in the social sciences. I work in the sciences, people in music. It's going to be really different measures. So this isn't getting too much into that. This is a little bit more focused on the traditional measures right now. But if you had other things you wanted to put in there, other facets or categories, that would be acceptable and would be really helpful to your faculty. And while we don't have the necessarily the people to do all the work for them with collecting this information, we do work with them very closely and guide them, at least give them examples of how to begin. We'll give them one or two and then work with them from there. But, you know, in many cases, we do help them a lot more closely, depending on what they do. With books, it gets a little bit trickier. We're not necessarily going into that right now. There's some very, very easy things you can do with that, but it gets a little more complicated after book counts and all that. But journal article information, at least for me in the sciences, was sort of the focus as I found people getting into that. And also, as you see from the text, we also are very careful and very observant of trying to make them aware of predatory titles, and also the things that Allison mentioned on export services to get your stuff into ORCID or into whatever other tool that you may need.
Matt, do you mind going back? I just quickly want to point out.
No, go ahead.
The Excel spreadsheet on the left is actually an example of one that I did for Dr. Okai, who's in the School of Public Affairs at USF. She gave me permission to share this example. Since she's a new professor, I really wanted to help her jumpstart her career at USF. So what I had her do was email me a few abstracts for articles that she's working on with fellow colleagues in the School of Public Affairs. And I was able to provide her lists of Q1 journals that had to do with topics she was writing on. I don't do this for everyone as extensively, but it's really great. You are able to export these lists from JCR or from Cymago, and literally export to Excel file, and you can pick the categories that you want on your Excel spreadsheet. So in this one, you'll notice I put the scope of the journal, their JCI, an impact factor, JIF, and their website information, so that Dr. Okai could literally just click on it, go straight there and poke around and see if any of these was a really great fit for her.
And those are great examples. And that's again going into like making sure the titles are good. And thank you, Allison. I didn't and gone into that thought about that particular topic because it sort of comes as second nature to some of us, the things we do, but it's really important because they don't know necessarily these tools the way we do. So as I just evidenced, your own obvious knowledge is not theirs. So make sure that you know exactly what they need and that you think about what they might need that they're not asking, which is exactly what we just discussed.
So kind of going along with journal metrics, a lot of people are interested in article level metrics. Oftentimes these are needed for promotion and tenure packages at every institution. So we offer the templates that we were showing earlier. These are the main databases that we work with for article level metrics. So Scopus, Web of Science, and even Google Scholar. Google Scholar, I mean, picks up a lot more citations than the others because sometimes it's questionable citing references. But it's a metric. It produces an H-index, so some people like that. But a lot of times their departments, the faculty members' departments will supply them with a spreadsheet, and they will have to get these metrics for their articles. So what we can help them do is navigate these different databases. And it's really great when they already have an author profile set up because we can just click through each article on these different databases to pull the individual article level metrics, which then happen to link to the journal metrics. So if you're going to do one thing, really push at your university, really push for the author profiles. I think that's kind of the starting point, the low-hanging fruit. But yeah, so we have some information on our web on our LibGuide, and we think that that's really empowering the faculty members to do their own research. But again, if they want to, they can contact us with a CV and we can help them pull some metrics just to get them started. We host, we do research consultations or impact consultations with faculty members to help them with doing this, because we know that these are not resources that they use every day. And as Matt already said, we kind of take for granted what we know. And that maybe other people don't know about these resources. So anyway, article level metrics are a bright and shiny thing.
And that's, if I can add one thing, to me, one of the things I always love to tell them is how these things work. They're all basically containers that only search things within their own containers. So the numbers will vary, even though they may sound kind of similar, but Google Scholar tracks things within its own world, as does Scopus and Web of Science, but the faculty don't always know the scale of those things. So Google Scholar is obviously the largest and most wide-ranging one in terms of encompassing literature, but it's not as vetted as the other two necessarily for what we're used to as librarians, seeing the exact content. So explaining Scopus versus Web of Science, and then as we'll get into a little more, the social sciences versus the sciences. My job may be a little easier than hers because it's a little more cut and dry, but Scopus is a little more wide-ranging in terms of some of those areas, and Web of Science is kind of the old standard. So we like to encourage them to use all of them as we go through. And then, the next step we thought about was we have access, because we're very fortunate, I suppose, good and bad, to these sort of advanced tools like SciVal and Insights. And we have been using them, and we've been using them for good, I hope. And there's a lot of data in there, but we hadn't really been formalizing any instruction or presentation about how to use them. So we started to bring up things, and this is just a slide to show you, if you haven't seen what it looks like, there's all kinds of things you can do in here, and we're not obviously going to go into all those things, but the faculty love easy, visual, and wonderfully beneficial charts and graphs. And this is something you can use to do that, not just with individuals, as you see Allison's profile here, but you can use this for individuals as well as departments or researchers and groups. So if you haven't had the chance to use SciVal or Insights, there's really a whole lot you can do with them. You can see up here all the different fields, but again, this isn't about how to use it, it's how we use it, which is first we start with them, then we look at their journals, then we look at their articles, and if they're still interested or they're a department chair, we take it onto this level. And there's no rule, it doesn't have to be a department chair. This is not something that's closed off to anyone. It's just that we tend to find that a lot of the focus on this is people wanting to look at themselves until they get to a point where they may be in an administrative role and they need to look at a little bit more. And there's lots of other.
Sorry,
Go
Matt,
ahead.
just going back to the previous slide, I just want to point out that it's showing my research progress in comparison to all of the LIS publications at USF. So we're looking at, so I only publish like 1 or 2 articles a year, whereas the entirety of faculty and the LIS information school and the library at USF, that's the total trend. So sometimes people get a little scared when they look at this. So that's why we don't typically promote it to everyone, but like for departments, it's very important. So.
That's a great warning. Thank you. I didn't think of that because, yeah, you look at this and you see these numbers, and as Allison said, it does show you something that may intimidate you, but everyone's faculty and publication expectations are different. So if yours are like ours, it may be 1 or 2 things a year. If you're a tenure track faculty in a department, it should be probably a lot more. So when you look at this, you can explain to the faculty member what these different numbers mean relative to their area, their department, etc. And then this is just sort of the bigger view, that we have some slides on a little presentation on our guide that people can work through that talk about how to use the overview and benchmarking features in very basic steps. This is looking at the entirety of the university at which Allison and I work at, the University of South Florida in Tampa, well, with campuses in St. Petersburg and Sarasota. And this is the total of all the things that are included within SciVal for the last 5 years, from 2018 to 2023. And so this is just a chance for people to see what they can do. And we'll talk more about how we take this further a little bit on some of the ending slides, but I have created on the left side of the screen some other things that I can look at so that I can show them how to do comparisons or other types of things in case they're interested in looking at peers, aspirants, or other types of data elements. And there's no real relevance to the universities pictured there. I think I kind of picked them for various subjects and examples, but you can see here, if you have these sorts of tools, it gives the department chair and or your provost, if you will, a great example of exactly what's going at the university. Anything else on this, Allison? I keep leaving things off that are really good.
No, you're looking great.
I'm not. This is just for fun. If this was live, that would be really funny. And this is one more just to show you. This is what Insights looks at. We find this is really nice for the faculty to take back with them because both of them provide this. There's different reporting tools, different tools you can use to download images. But if you're like, hey, our goal is to be prepared for that elevator speech of what can I tend to provide to my faculty in a very quick format. And this is one of those things that you can give them in very quick regard. So
these are a few of the workshops that we've been offering to faculty members through what's we're calling the Workshop for Researchers program at USF Libraries. We do some of these in-house, meaning that the librarians talk about them. But we also have asked people in other departments at USF to lead various workshops, such as people from academic affairs and the Office of Research. So for instance, we don't work with academic analytics, but we have other departments on campus that work with academic analytics. You notice that we have 2 on the bottom here with question marks, because we've been investigating expanding our workshops to other topics such as altmetrics and measuring impact for the humanities, which is a little more difficult, but they are still, alternative metrics we know, but the workshops are aimed at all faculty members. So we want to give them the opportunity to learn about their specific disciplines. So.
And yeah, we've been working through these and we're hoping to integrate even more. We're trying to get vendors to come in and do these things too. And they seem to be more than happy to do so if it gets a little bit more purchase on their tools, which is good. So sorry for the slide share thing there. That was just me trying to make sure. Okay. And then, so our assessment and future plans. There are many. This really played, and without going into this in too much detail, this played a big part in our personal and professional job assignments. So we're looking at a number of things here that are listed out: social media, altmetrics, assessment, but mostly it's assessment. And what we're trying to do, and we haven't really determined exactly what that is because this is the beginning and not the end. We know we're going to look at the number of consultations we have, which is listed there. We use Smartsheets to gather those, and we actually have a category for this. We had a category previously, so we will be able to compare the numbers after we do our marketing blitz and upgrades to those after. We're not going into satisfaction or anything qualitative yet, but at least we'll get some quantitative data based on the number of hits on the LibGuide and based on the number of uses of our services. And then after that, we will take what we have and hopefully use it for continuous improvement, because that's sort of the plan. We think we know what they want, but we're not entirely sure. So there's going to be a lot of sort of questions going forward, but we've at least pushed ourselves hopefully in the right direction, and we will base it on those data things that we get back. We do have plans to consider doing a survey, sort of a qualitative one in the near future, that we would turn into hopefully some quantitative data using that. But that would require, evidence that is needed. We'd have to go into IRB potentially, which is always fun, but we're happy to do so if and when that comes to play. So the other things that are there are social media and altmetrics. These are requests from upper administration and the dean, because these are aspects of impact that are less easily measurable by academic standards, but more new. They're newer, so we need to start addressing them. I don't know the word I had in my head, but yeah, they're sort of nebulous at this point, but we'd like to start measuring them quite a bit better and add them to something that they could use. We don't know if those are being measured that way or accepted by upper administration, but in some cases, they are very important. And we want to, of course, improve the guide as we go.
And we've seen, we've already had, like I said, individual research consultations. We've had our workshops. I've even had requests now from departments and, for instance, the Honors College for me to come in and talk to their faculty members about impact and visibility and metrics. And so we're starting to see progress with the program. So it's really exciting to see where this goes in the future.
Some of it may seem anecdotal, but we're doing what we can and we're going to work it from there. So, well, thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed what was apologetically a couple technical disjoints, but the content is all there. If you have any questions, our email addresses are here. We're happy to provide you with the guide. As librarians, we are legally required to share things freely. So if you want more information, none of this is secret. We are happy to share it. If you want to mimic or correct us. We're happy with any of that too. And
Yeah,
Allison,
happy to
any
get
closing
feedback
thoughts?
too.
Yeah, happy to get feedback. Right.
And we will be available after the recording for a live session for Q&A. So thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
I'm going to stop the share and thank you all for attending and talk to you soon.